in Schwenningen, Germany. Today I'm in sort of my family's, it's not really the ancestral village. It is to the extent that this is where my grandparents are from. But originally my family is from an area that's called Frickenhausen. Um, and what I found out actually what happened, why my grandfather ended up here in Schwenningen, which I'm going to show you a bit. First of all, let me tell you what I'm going to do today. I'm trying to stay organized here. I am going to show you a little bit the village, and I want to show you our home. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a house tour so you can see. So I'm going to show you a little bit the village, the house tour. I want to talk to you a little bit about some things that are very different regarding life here in Germany versus life in the States or in Canada, especially when it comes to the goods, where they get their stuff from. You guys are not going to believe this. It's totally different. Yes, there are some really big differences with their supplies, their goods that they use here. It was quite mind-blowing. And also the system, the way life is run here, Germany has this reputation for being highly organized. And in particular, one thing I noticed was with their recycling system. I want to show you. I know you're going to be like, recycling, you know, it's just a small detail of life, but over here it's a really big deal, and everybody does it, and you have to do it. And I'm going to tell you, how does that work? I don't want to get in all the details now, but the recycling here, it's like a huge thing. Everything gets recycled, and it's mandatory. How is that possible? Let me show you just a little bit the village where I am. So it's a small town now. It was a village when my mother grew up here. This is where my mother grew up and lived as a child. This is where she lived through World War II. And on that note, I've been finding out quite a few interesting things from my aunt. This was the house where her friend lived. Here is the garden behind my family's home. I feel like I can't really just show you this without going a little bit into the history. So as you may know, my mother grew up during the Second World War, which means that at the time this was Nazi Germany. My mother was born in 1935. So she was 4 years old when the war started. The Nazis were already in power, and they had a very firm grip on Germany and on the German people, what they were allowed to do and say and think long before the war started. My aunt had told me, this was as far back as 1934, 1935, like right around when my mother was born. 1934, my grandfather was still living in Frickenhausen. And the reason he came here to Schwenningen was actually that he was anti-Nazi, and he had shot his mouth off and said some anti-party things. And already in 1934, it was so serious that if you said anything against the party, they would take you and put you in jail. Maybe they would let you back out, hopefully, but it was already that serious. And after whatever it was that he had said in Frickenhausen, he was advised that he should get out of there before something bad happened to him. And that is the reason why my grandfather chose to come to this town here, which is Schwenningen. And that is why he bought this house. Now, the other half of the story was also that my grandmother was pregnant before they were married, and his family were owners of like an inn and a brewery, and they were fairly well-to-do. And my grandmother was a sort of servant in this establishment, an employee. And he had fallen madly in love with her, gotten her knocked up. His parents, his mother was really against this marriage, the union, wanted her to just sort of go away with her pregnancy and her baby, just go somewhere. And she had actually a gallbladder crisis in reaction to the stress. My grandmother said, you know, my child is also going to be a toast, and you don't need to have a gallbladder crisis over this. Married my grandfather, Willie, and they moved here to start a bakery and start a new life here in Schwenningen. And so part of that was they needed to start their own life because my grandfather was now disowned, apparently, for getting this girl pregnant, but also because he had run into some trouble with the Nazi party. So that was some pretty heavy stuff. So let me show you. So back in the day, so this is the house here. Isn't this beautiful? So gorgeous with all these flowers. Back in the day, this was the yard. So there's tons of traffic here, lots of trucks going by, sorry about that. This little yard here held a pig pen and many rabbit hutches. The balcony wasn't there, but there was a door over there on the side. And during the war, you weren't supposed to have animals. You weren't supposed to have this kind of stuff, but a lot of people did anyway. And they used this space here to grow their own food so they wouldn't starve, and even, yes, to keep rabbits and a pig. And they used the rabbits also for fur to make clothing. That's pretty much how it was. You had to be a bit self-sufficient. And I'll tell you, they had to hide that pig. You were not allowed. I don't know about the rabbits. Maybe you were allowed to have the rabbits because they were right here in the backyard here in hutches. And on a side note, my grandfather loved his rabbits. He had nicknames for them. Dickkopfele, Lumpele, Schatzele, and he would come out and call them Dickkopfele. And Dickkopfele was his favorite. Dickkopfele means little fat head. Lumpele is a little lump, and Schatzele is a little treasure. And they all had names. I just only know those three. And Dickkopfele was his favorite rabbit. He was the only one that he never slaughtered and ate. And he died a natural death. He was very fond of his rabbits. And this pig that he had was called Bernhard. He had to hide the pig in the basement. And I'm going to show you. The basement was where the bakery was, but also where they hid the what do you call it? Like, not a black market pig, but this sort of, clandestine pig, Bernhard. And when they would slaughter Bernhard, and my mother would say, "What happened to Bernhard?" They'd say, "Oh, he ran off with his girlfriend." Then they'd get themselves another pig, and his name was also Bernhard. So here was the garden. This is where the rabbits and the pig were. And from what I remember, there was a nice big Zwetschgen baum here, like a plum tree. So they had quite a bit of food they were able to grow here. I'm going to show you the house. So here's the little village street. I'm just going to give you guys the story here. I hope you enjoy this bit of history. And let me tell you, in this little town, the Nazis came through all the towns. Hitler himself would come through in a car, and everybody was supposed to stand at the side of the road and cheer him on. And what my aunt told me was that when the Nazis came here to Schwenningen, there were people who protested. And what happened to them was that the SS took those people away immediately, and they were never seen again. They took them away right away. Same as my grandfather Willy had to leave Frickenhausen because he was anti-Nazi. There was just no tolerance. It was a real zero tolerance policy. They would put you in jail, or they would put you in ein Lager, straight up put you in the camps. I don't think they had the camps at that time the way they were later, but they were like work camps, or they would just, eliminate you. But there was no dissent allowed, and I was pretty much like, wow. So here's the house. So this was the entrance to the bakery here. There's a lot of overlap with French here. The territory has kind of gone back and forth in the hands of the Germans and the French in the Napoleon days. And so in this area, there's this crossover. And so they actually do use some French words like the sidewalk. I'm not sure what they call sidewalk in regular German, but over here they call it trottoir. And if someone was sick, my aunt would say that they said the person was malade. So they had some French words here, which I thought was interesting. I'm going to take you into the house. It's been redone. It was renovated some years ago. I want to show you where my grandfather had his bakery. Okay, so here's the old area. This is the rest of the house is totally renovated. Some of this here is still quite old. So this here was das Mehlzimmer. Die, this was the old flower room where they kept all the flour. And I think they called this Waschzimmer or Waschkammer. This was like the wash room where they washed things because this was a bakery and it's still the washroom today. And apparently, my aunt said the water would come in through here somewhere. I don't know. It would flood in here and they would have to get up late, in the middle of the night with rags on, or they're not rags, what do you call it? They wear these things to bed, like these bed caps. They'd come down here in their nightgowns with their bed hats on and be trying to, I don't know, get rid of this water. Apparently it could get quite hectic. And this was the cellar. I hope you guys can see. Is there a light here? This here was like the regular cellar and storage room. And, back in those times, people would preserve a lot of vegetables and fruits and make jams and, like the way the preppers do today. Well, back then, people kept a lot of food in this storage room. And this room here, this is quite interesting too. Wait, where's the light? Spooky basement. Wait, am I in the right place? Uh-oh, I think I've gotten lost in our basement. No, I think this is it here. Yeah, behind this curtain. Can you guys see? Okay, it's getting pixelated. This here was the coal room, which is still here. And you see where this window is. She said the coal would come in like through there. There were some coal bins in here. This is what they would use to fire up the baking ovens. And show you one more room down here before we get to what used to be the bakery. This is the old bathroom, and this is the only room down here that has not been renovated, and I thought that was kind of cool. This is the old wall, what it was like back in the 1930s. This is the kind of wall they had. And I mean, this is all super old. That doesn't look like the oldest toilet in the world, but the sink, this is really old. And so then, where's that other room? Hope I don't get lost. Oh, it's kind of spooky. So far, no ghosts yet. Is this open? I know it's locked now. Well, it's locked. I mean, I could ask my cousin to open it. But in that room, it's basically now it's a garage, but that was the bakery. So this was the layout of it. No, we totally do. And you guys remember I told you that they had a pig, a clandestine pig, Bernhard. And Bernhard had to stay down here. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it when my mother told me they kept a pig in the basement. So little Bernhard had to stay in this room. Can you imagine? Wartime Germany. And there's ein Schweinchen living in this room. Must have been kind of interesting, huh? Yes, of course we get along. Cultural differences? Not really. I mean, don't forget my parents are European. I was raised with a lot of European culture myself and a lot of European food. I was actually the weirdo, if anything. I didn't fit in so well with the rest of the North Americans. I felt way bigger difference between me and Americans than I did between me and Europeans. My parents were super old country. Just the values, everything, the way the family interacted, the food, all that stuff. I mean, there are some things here. Apparently, grown men don't wear shorts, but I mean, who's wearing shorts anyway? Don't wear white socks. Like all the things that Americans do. We don't do those anyway. So these are things that my grandmother embroidered. She was a really good embroiderer. My Oma Hedwig was a really great embroiderer. She did such a nice work. Aren't these beautiful? And this is my favorite one here with the red. So gorgeous. And when I was a little girl, we did visit, and she's the one who taught me how to embroider. And I did it for a really long time. And people used to always say to me, oh, you're so patient. I don't know how you could sit there and do that for so long. But for me, it wasn't it didn't require patience. It was like relaxing and I was enjoying it. And I guess that runs in the family. So the big difference is you guys know how, okay, when you go shopping in Canada or the US, where does most of your stuff come from? Oh, it says this one's made in China. Well, how about that? Well, I'll be diddly darned. My neck pillows that we brought for the plane, guess what? Made in China, right? I kind of just took that as like a fact of life, like, right? Because manufacturing costs too much. Yes, Bangladesh too. Manufacturing costs too much in North America. So we have to accept that this is why the corporations have to get our clothes made in China. So all our stuff is from China. We know that. Now, this is what really surprised me when I came here. Not easy to show my shoes on camera. Can you see that? They've got a floral motif on them with little sparkles. They've got a nice sole. They're so comfortable. This is all super soft. It's like this is like a kind of suede here or something. They're really, really cute, right? Now, I paid 40 euros. It's like roughly $60, but man, are they good quality. And you don't get leather shoes in Canada. You wouldn't be able to get shoes like this for $60. It would be like 120, 150. I'm wearing rich people shoes. When I was there at the shoe store, I noticed all the shoes they're real materials, they're real leather, and none of them are made in China. That store, everything was made in Germany. I went and looked at other stores. I looked at the clothes, handbags, shoes, wallets, whatever, and I noticed, hey, like, where's all the stuff that's from China? We looked at all the things. The candies also, we looked at where did they come from. They're made in Germany. Candle. Okay, now back home, this would be like dollar store kind of thing, would be from China. I checked it. I checked where it said. What did it say here? It's from Hungary. So all the stuff is European made. This is a room perfume. Where is this from? Austria. My cousin says the only things that are made in Asia here are all the electronics. But all the other stuff, it's from Europe. It could be, it could be from Hungary or Poland or Czech Republic or Germany, Austria, France, wherever, but it's not going to be generally from outside of Europe. And I was thinking, like, well, how do they manage that? How does that work? Labor in our country is too expensive. It's too expensive to make things in Canada or the US, but in Europe they can do it. Doesn't the shipping cost kind of make up for like the fact that the labor is cheaper elsewhere? I remember something about bringing manufacturing back to America. Yeah, I think there's something weird is going on here, don't you think? Don't you think that's kind of weird? In Quebec, okay, we have recycling, but there's a lot of scams going. Like we had scams running with the recycling where people would open a recycling plant. They get money from the government for it. They get like a subsidy for it. So there was this one, they opened this recycling thing. They come pick up your recycling. They got money from the government to do all that, but then what they did was they opened a second company and they actually sold all their recycle stuff that they picked up to themselves. Total scam. And then they put it in the dump. How crazy is that? So you may have heard this before, that for all this talk about recycling, most of it ends up in a landfill in North America. Like they say 10, maybe 20% of it actually gets recycled. Apparently that's not the case in Europe. Of course, the normal recycling where you put your paper and your plastic, which is, this is a composting, you see? And everyone does this, whether they live in a house or an apartment. And if you have a house with a garden, you might have your own composting on site. Otherwise, they come and pick it up. And believe it or not, they will check. You cannot put your organic garbage in the Abfall, which is like the regular garbage. They will actually check when they come to pick up your garbage. If they see that you've put food in with your papers, they won't pick it up. And I wanted to show you one last thing here that they have. Let me see if I can dig it up. Yeah, what the heck? You know, when you travel, you see like sometimes actually they do better, you know, in other countries. They manage things a lot better. There's this too, I wanted to show you. Sonia, she needed super strength and became her own hero or something like that. So this is like a super great bag. And these bags here, these are like reusable bag and they're made out of recycled materials. They're made out of bottles. I have another one here that I love. I told you guys I kept the tag on it because I thought you guys might want one too. And they're strong. They're not like our reusable bags that we have. I mean, it's almost like a joke. You go to the dollar store and they sell you a reusable bag that it's, I don't know if it's compostable, but it breaks. Have you guys noticed that? Those reusable bags that they sell us, like if we show up and we don't have a plastic bag, those things are horrible. It's from Eco Chic. I got it in Ireland. And I love the design on it. And it's really cute. It's tiny. It'll fit in my bag. And I've been using it all the time. And it's so sturdy. It's like made really well. I feel like super annoyed because in Canada, like they're making us do things. They're saying it's to help the environment, but then we see that it doesn't bear fruit. What are we doing it for? It's so badly organized. It's not actually doing anything. At least here, what they're doing, yeah, it's cutting down on the garbage. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Reusing things, making things good quality. I feel like in Quebec, they're just trying to drive us crazy. This has been like a very enlightening experience, seeing the difference between Canada and Europe. Well, anyway, that's okay. I just want to let you know it was really nice to see you here and to get to chat with you a little bit. I hope you enjoyed this. And we are leaving tomorrow to go to our next destination. And I also have now the plug for my laptop, so I won't have to just go live all the time. I'll be able to edit footage and do all that. But I might still go live a little bit if you're enjoying it and if we're having fun. And so that's it. I want to say thank you everybody for joining me. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.